Imagine this, a simple family dinner. You serve some basic pasta. An hour later, you're planning how to pack up the kids and disappear, all because of one comment. Would it kill you to dress like a woman? Said in your own kitchen. Now listen to how it all went down. All right, before anyone comes at me, yeah, I get that family dinners can be uncomfortable. That's kind of the deal, right? You power through, crack a few jokes, sneak off for a bathroom wine break, and vent to the group chat about how you'd rather be curled up in bed watching TikToks. But what happened last night? That wasn't just awkward. Last night was something else entirely. I don't even know how to explain it. Like the universe decided it was time I finally saw exactly where I stand with these people. And let me tell you, the message came through crystal clear. So yeah, I guess I should give you some background. Every Thursday, my in-laws come over for dinner. It's kind of a tradition. It's never anything I look forward to, but I tolerate it. Derek, my husband, says it's important for the kids. We've got two little ones, a girl and a boy, both under 10, and it's not like I'm trying to cut them off from family. That's not it. It's just, I don't know. Every Thursday feels like I'm showing up to take a test I didn't study for. Derek's parents, they're, let's just say they live in a time capsule. His dad, Frank, actually believes women should be thankful just to be taken care of. Like, no joke. And his mom, Linda, is one of those who'll reach out and fix your hair while you're mid-sentence, or hit you with a, "Oh, you're wearing that?" and smile so sweetly you almost feel guilty for being annoyed. I try to keep things simple on Thursdays. Nothing fancy. I'm already tired, and that part of the week always hits me sideways. So yesterday, I made this basic pasta bake. Just noodles, a few veggies, some cheese. Throw it in the oven. Boom, done. The kids like it. It's easy. And to be honest, by noon, I'd already dealt with 3 school-related phone calls and a full-blown meltdown over a missing water bottle. So no, I wasn't about to go all Gordon Ramsay. Not yesterday. The second they walked through the door, I knew Frank was in one of those moods. You know the type. Breathing loud on purpose, giving off "the world offends me" energy. It's been happening more often lately, probably because he's aging and feels ignored. Which, spoiler alert, we do ignore him, because he literally never says anything worth paying attention to. It all starts with the food. I'm just trying to serve dinner, and he's pulling faces like he's been handed a plate of roadkill. The kids giggle, of course, which only fuels him because now he's got a little audience. He pokes at the pasta and goes, "This the best you can do?" And honestly, I didn't even flinch. I've heard worse. But here's where it really takes a turn. Derek, instead of shutting it down or even just brushing it off, gives this smug little smile and says something about how I only married him for his last name and the supposed property he owns. Which is hilarious because we're living with a mortgage and a car that barely scrapes by every year at inspection. I try to speak up, like, "Hey, maybe don't do this in front of the kids." But Derek cuts me off. He goes, "Maybe if you put half the energy into this marriage that you put into feeling sorry for yourself, we'd be eating something decent." Yup, he said that, out loud, in front of everyone. Nobody says a thing. Linda just quietly tops off her wine and scrolls her phone like she's reading the weather report. The kids go silent. And honestly, that silence hurt more than the earlier laughter. I just sat there, frozen. What was I even supposed to do? If I said something, I'd be the overly emotional one. If I walked out, I'd be making a scene. And of course, it didn't stop there. Frank starts in on my job, calls it cute that I work, but insists I should really be focusing on the home, because that's what real women do. Side note, my mom worked full-time, and our house didn't exactly fall apart. Then he starts going off about how I dress, throws in some comment about leggings not being real pants, and how women used to take pride in how they looked. And it's not like I looked sloppy. I was literally in comfy clothes from running errands and cleaning all day. Linda? Still nothing. She stares at the wall behind me like it might start talking. Derek just sits there, barely eating, acting like this whole thing is business as usual. I try nudging the kids to eat, but they're not really focused on their plates. They can feel it, the tension. They're not babies. My daughter even starts to say she likes the food, bless her heart. But Frank cuts her off. says, "Of course she does. Kids don't know any better." I want to snap at him. I really do. But I'm just done. I don't have it in me to fight. I just want the night to be over. So I grab my phone and start scrolling. Check Instagram. Text my sister something like, "Kill me." She sends back a meme that's supposed to make me laugh. It doesn't. Meanwhile, Frank's still going, now rambling about how my generation's too soft. Says if I'd grown up in his house, I'd have been sent packing a long time ago. And Derek? He's laughing, actually laughing. I didn't even recognize him in that moment. Like, who is this man? I get that he's always chasing his dad's approval, but why does it have to come at my expense? It's insane. Eventually, I stand up and start clearing plates. Not because I want to, just because I need something to do. Linda tells me I look upset. I don't answer. I just take the dishes and dump them in the sink. I don't slam them or anything, but if one chipped, I wouldn't exactly care. Derek asks if I'm about to cry, which is wild. I'm literally just trying not to scream. I tell him I'm fine. He rolls his eyes. The kids head off to their room after dessert. I let them take their tablets. Forget screen time limits. Tonight, I just didn't care. Linda tries to make small talk about the weather. Like the whole dinner didn't just implode. Frank's grumbling under his breath about how the world's lost its mind. And then, Derek, of all people, casually asks what I'm making for dinner tomorrow. I almost burst out laughing. Instead, I tell him I have no idea. Maybe he should hit up his dad for some recipe inspiration. He doesn't laugh, doesn't even crack a smile. I finish up with the dishes and head straight to our bedroom. I lock the door behind me, not really sure why. Just force of habit, maybe. Then I lay on the bed and scroll through TikTok for an hour, mostly out of sheer defiance. Derek eventually comes in. He doesn't say a single word, just gets changed and crawls into bed like nothing happened. I'm lying there wide awake thinking, how am I supposed to just pretend everything's fine after that disaster of a night? I don't sleep, not even a little. My mind drifts to the idea of leaving, not like forever leaving, more like disappearing for a weekend, taking the kids, getting some breathing room. But then I start thinking about all the logistics, packing, managing the kids, figuring out where to go. And I wonder, am I actually doing something, or am I just trying to escape? I think about what my friends would say, but honestly, most of them don't really understand. They shrug it off with stuff like, that's just how in-laws are, or Derek's probably just under pressure. Maybe, and that's kind of where I'm stuck, like I'm teetering on the edge, waiting for something to snap, because I know I can't just brush this off. I shouldn't brush it off, but I have no clue what my next move is. I keep circling back to how easily they tore me down, in my house, like I was some nuisance they had to tolerate. Like I exist solely to cook their food and take up as little space as possible. And the way Derek looked at me, like he was embarrassed by me. Frank clearly despises the fact that I'm not his version of a real woman. And Linda, she just lets it all slide. Probably because that's what she's always done. Look, I'm not pretending to be the perfect wife or mother. I absolutely have days where I ignore the laundry and get lost in my phone while the house falls apart around me. I forget stuff. I get moody. I wear what's comfortable and don't dress up for anyone. But I still don't believe I deserve to be treated like a second-class citizen. Not by them, and definitely not by Derek. Sometimes I wonder, what if I just stopped doing everything? Just stopped being the glue. Let them see what life looks like when I stop holding everything together. Anyway, sorry if this turned into a rant. I just needed to get it off my chest somewhere. I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I know one thing for sure. I can't keep living like this. I'm not the kind of person who just swallows it and smiles. Not anymore. So, I'm back, and wow. It's honestly wild how fast everything starts falling apart the second you stop pretending it's all okay. Seriously, I woke up the next morning, and something about the house just felt off. Derek was already in the kitchen, acting like everything was business as usual. He was making coffee, scrolling on his phone, just chill as ever. He even offered me the last bit of oat milk, like it was some grand gesture. And I just stood there staring at him, trying to wrap my head around how someone could be both completely oblivious and smug at the same time. Even the kids were weirdly quiet, which is never how mornings go in our house. Usually someone's yelling about a missing sock or arguing over the charger, but not that day. They sat at the table eating cereal without saying much, just sneaking looks at me, then at their dad. I asked my daughter if she wanted her favorite blue sneakers. She always wants those, and she just gave me a little shrug. Then my son tried to lighten the mood with a joke about the pasta from last night. Said something like, "At least it didn't have peas." But then he caught my eye and went quiet. Yeah, they knew. I got everyone ready and out the door for school, and then just sat in the car. Didn't even start it. Just sat there for 10 minutes, staring at my phone, scrolling through Reddit. I was halfway into a random neighbor drama thread when it hit me. I felt nothing. I texted my friend Monica. We're not super close, but she's got that no-nonsense energy and always says what needs to be said. I wrote, "Family dinner was a disaster. Want to grab coffee?" She replied, "Sure," right away. So I went. We met up at this cafe that's usually packed, but somehow, miracle, there was one open table. I told her everything, every detail. She just looked at me for a second, then launched into it. She said, "Your father-in-law's a fossil, and Derek's been trying to impress him since forever." I kind of laughed, but she wasn't wrong. Then she hit me with the real question. "Why do you keep letting them treat you like this?" And I didn't know what to say. I mumbled something about how it's easier to ignore it than to start a fight every single time. But even I knew that wasn't true. Not really. She said, "Sure, it might be easier, but that doesn't mean it's better." She was right, 100%. When I got home, I saw that Derek had texted me 3 times, asking if I was coming back for lunch, which, by the way, we never do lunch together. I don't even know where that was coming from. I ignored him, started thinking about dinner, then I stopped myself. Why was I planning a meal for people who treat me like a maid with a bad attitude? Nope, not today. So I didn't cook, not a thing. I ordered pizza for the kids, pepperoni for my son, cheese for my daughter. I knew they wouldn't complain, and I just didn't have the energy to deal with anything else. Derek walked in, saw the boxes, and immediately asked if I was done sulking. I looked at him and said, "Maybe I'm just done." Period. He rolled his eyes and mumbled something about how I never let things go. I told him, "Yeah, you're right. I'm not letting this go. Not this time." Then his mom, Linda, showed up. Uninvited as usual. Barely knocked. Just strolled right in with that fake concerned look on her face. You could tell she wasn't there to check on me, just to sweep the drama under the rug so her version of normal could resume. She asked if we could have a private word, so I followed her into the hallway. She started off with, "I know Frank can come across a little harsh, but he's just old-fashioned. Don't take it personally." I just stared at her. No expression, nothing. I told her, "He literally called me lazy and useless in front of my children." She shrugged it off. "Oh, he doesn't mean it like that. You know how he is." I said, "Yeah, I do. And I'm done pretending like it's somehow okay." Then she launched into the usual guilt trip about how I should think of the family, how Derek's under so much pressure. I asked, "Pressure from what?" Sitting there while his dad tears into me like it's a sport. She didn't like that, started fidgeting with the zipper on her purse like it would save her from the conversation. Then she says, "You know Frank just wants what's best for Derek." I looked at her and asked, "And what about what's best for me or for our kids?" No answer. Instead, she gave me this look and said, "You're not like the women in our family. You don't just do what needs to be done." And I said, "Maybe that's exactly the issue." She didn't reply, just slammed the door on her way out. Derek didn't mention any of it, not a single word. He went straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat down in front of the TV like nothing had happened. The kids were still in their room, half watching something on their tablets, volume way too high, but I didn't care. I sat alone at the dining table, scrolling through old photos on my phone, trying to figure out when it all got so ugly, because it didn't used to be like this. Or maybe it was, and I just kept brushing it aside. The next morning, I made a decision. I was done being the household cruise director. No laundry. I didn't bother picking up the dirty socks buried under the couch. Didn't wipe down the counters. Didn't empty the dishwasher. Derek asked me if I'd seen his blue shirt. I said, check the laundry basket. He looked at me like I'd just insulted his mother to her face. I gave a shrug and went back to my coffee. The kids picked up on the shift too. My daughter asked if we could have pancakes, and I told her, sure, but only if you help make them. She smiled and said, okay, so we did. Together. Derek didn't even come to the table. Later, Linda texted me, you can't just stop doing things because you're upset. I left her on red. Throughout the day, I started to realize just how much I actually do in this house. Not in a look at me, I'm a martyr kind of way, but literally nothing happens unless I make it happen. So I started taking pictures, groceries, receipts, the endless piles of laundry, my calendar filled with appointments and reminders. I organized them all into a folder on my phone, not because I needed to prove anything to anyone, but because I needed to see it all in one place. Derek caught me taking a picture of the overflowing trash and asked what I was doing. I said, documenting. He rolled his eyes. You're so dramatic. By the time the week wrapped up, the whole atmosphere in the house had shifted. The kids started asking more questions. My daughter asked if we could visit my mom. My mom, not Linda. I said maybe, but reminded her that Grandma lives 3 hours away, and that's not exactly a casual trip. That night, my mom called. She asked if everything was okay. I told her, not really, but I'm working on it. She offered to drive up and help, but I told her to hold off for now. Then on Saturday, Frank called again, and this time I picked up, mostly just to hear what kind of nonsense he'd try to push this time. Sure enough, he jumped straight into the usual back in my day rant. Said women didn't run the house, they served their husbands, blah, blah, blah. I told him, well, it's not your day anymore. He replied, you're going to ruin this family with that attitude. I shot back, maybe it needs to be ruined. Click. He hung up. Later that same day, Linda showed up again. Grocery bag in hand, smile plastered on like she'd just won a prize for faking it. She said, I brought some things for dinner. Let's just start over. I looked her in the eye and said, I'm not cooking. She blinked like she didn't quite believe me. I added, if you want to make dinner, the kitchen's right there. She stared for a second, then said, you're serious? I nodded. Dead serious. She gave this dramatic little huff, dropped the bag on the counter, and started chopping vegetables. Derek was parked on the couch watching everything unfold, silent as ever. When the food was ready, Linda tried her best to act like everything was fine, but she was clearly fuming beneath that tight smile. She'd gone way too heavy on the garlic, and the kids barely touched their plates. Derek ate without a word, then shoved his chair back and left the table like it physically pained him to stay there. My son looked up at me and asked, can we have pizza again tomorrow? After dinner, I grabbed my phone and went for a walk. Left my watch at home. I just needed space. By the time I came back, Derek was in the bedroom, scrolling on his phone like nothing in the world could possibly be wrong. I asked, do you want to talk? He didn't even look up, just said, about what? I replied, about everything. He sighed. I'm tired. Can we not do this right now? I said, sure. Then I walked out, closed the door behind me, and sat in the hallway. Not to cry or anything, just because I physically couldn't be in that room with him anymore. The next day, I started writing things down. I made a full list. Everything I do to keep this house running. Everything the kids need. Every task, every errand. Then I started moving a few of my things into the guest room. Derek noticed. Asked what I was doing. I said, just needed some space. He laughed. You're being ridiculous, I said. Maybe. As I walked past him, Derek reached out and tried to grab my arm. I pulled away without hesitation. He slammed the door behind me, loud and petty. That night, I took the kids out for ice cream. We sat in the car, windows down, music playing quietly as we licked our cones and watched the sunset melt across the dashboard. At one point, my daughter looked at me and asked, are we going on a trip? I told her, not yet, but maybe soon. My son chimed in with, I hope it's somewhere with a pool. When we got home, Derek's car was gone. I got the kids ready for bed, tucked them in without a word about him, then curled up on the couch, scrolling through places to stay. I messaged Monica, asked if she knew anyone who might have a spare room. She said she'd check around, but warned it could take a little time. I told her that's fine, and it was. But also, it wasn't. Because as much as I say I'm not rushing, I know I'm already done waiting. I'm done hoping for something to magically get better. That's where I'm at now. No tears, no drama. Just done. I'm not cooking elaborate meals. I'm not deep cleaning the house like I'm being graded on it. I'm not breaking myself in half for people who treat my effort like background noise. And if that makes me selfish, fine. Let it. If they want to call me a burden, fine again. I'd rather be labeled too much than keep living like I'm invisible. I know this isn't over. Not even close. But for the first time in what feels like forever, I'm the one making the choices. I'm not just reacting anymore. I don't have all the answers. But I do know this. I'm not going back to the way things were. I'll update when there's more. And if you made it through all of this, thanks for sticking with me. So, here we are again. Honestly, I thought I'd already hit rock bottom. Turns out there's always a little more room to fall before you hit the ground and finally do something about it. I won't lie, this one's going to be long. I need to get all of it out of my head before it just loops there forever. You ever notice how, when the vibe in a house goes bad, everything feels like a fight? Even the tiniest things blow up. Like someone leaving the milk out or a charger going missing suddenly feels like an act of war. That was the whole vibe this week. The house wasn't even that messy. Just normal stuff. Shoes in the hallway, snack crumbs, unfolded laundry. But Derek, he acted like the apocalypse had arrived. Every little thing set him off. Big sighs, snide comments, dramatic pauses. Apparently, no one respects the house anymore, he'd say. To me, to the kids, even to his mom over speakerphone. Which, by the way, was wild, because she agreed with him. Then launched into one of her speeches about how, when she was my age, she had 3 kids, kept a perfect home, and cooked every meal from scratch. I actually laughed out loud. She didn't appreciate that. At all. So I stopped responding. Or I just say, then do it yourself. Even the kids started copying me. And yeah, I felt a little guilty. But also, why should they think it's only my responsibility to keep everything running? I could feel Derek's irritation building every single day, so I started leaving earlier in the mornings. Took the kids out for breakfast, went to the park. Anything to stay out of that house. Derek texted a few times asking where we were. I'd just reply, out. Once he called asking if I was coming home for lunch. I said no. He hung up on me. Then on Tuesday, I walked in and found Linda in the kitchen, digging through the fridge like she lived there. She said she was just helping out, since in her words, things seemed to be slipping. I told her flat out, you don't live here. She said, I'm just trying to keep the place together. I said, then you can go do that at your own house. She slammed the fridge and stormed out. Derek walked in right as she was leaving and immediately asked what I said to his mom. I told him the truth, that she was crossing the line, and he came back with, this is my family's house too. I said, then maybe your family should be doing their share of the work too. His voice went up. Mine didn't. But I didn't back down either. He got up close, in my face, like he was trying to intimidate me. And for the first time, I pushed him back. Not hard, just enough to say, back off. He stared at me, totally caught off guard. Then like a child, he slapped the wall behind me and stomped off like that somehow proved his point. I stood there half expecting more words, but nothing came. After that, everything turned cold. He started sleeping on the couch. The kids didn't ask questions. I let them watch more Netflix than usual. Honestly, I didn't care. I texted my mom, told her things were bad. She said, come stay here for a bit if you need to. I told her I'd think about it. Monica also texted, said she found someone with a spare room if I needed a place. I said, maybe soon. And then Thursday happened. Derek came home in full storm mode. I could tell the second the door slammed. Loud, deliberate. and he didn't bother taking off his shoes. The kids and I were in the kitchen working on a puzzle. He walked in, took one look, and exploded. "This is how we live now? Garbage everywhere?" I calmly said, "It's a puzzle, not garbage." He didn't even hesitate, just swept the puzzle off the table. Pieces flew everywhere. My daughter burst into tears. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Get out!" He shouted back, "This is my house." And I told him, "Not for long." He stormed out again. I quietly picked up the puzzle pieces while the kids watched from the doorway. Then I took them to their room and gave them each a book and a hug. After that, I called my mom. Told her, "I think it's time for me to leave." She said, "Come tomorrow." I told her, "Okay." But deep down, I didn't want it to feel like I was just running away. I wanted him to really get it, to understand what he'd done. So I walked into the living room, stood right in front of him, and said, "I'm taking the kids." He blinked like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. "You can't just decide that," he snapped. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Watch me." He reached for my arm and I yanked it back immediately. This time, I didn't just pull away. I slapped his hand off me and said, "Don't touch me." He gave me that cold glare and said, "You're really going to blow up our whole family over one stupid dinner?" I said, "No. I'm done because you treat me like garbage, and you let your parents do it too." He scoffed. "This is all in your head." That's when I pulled out my phone and opened the folder. I showed him every single picture, the receipts, the calendars, the school emails, the endless errands, all of it. He glanced at the screen for maybe 2 seconds, then tossed my phone onto the couch like it was junk mail. I didn't say a word. I just went to the kids' room, packed up overnight bags, and told them we were going to Grandma's for a while. My daughter asked, "Is Daddy coming too?" I said, "Not right now, honey." Then my son, so sweet and worried, said, "Is it because of the puzzle?" I knelt down and told him gently, "No, sweetheart. This isn't your fault, not even a little." As we were leaving, Derek tried to block the doorway. I shoved past him without hesitation. He shouted after me, "You'll regret this." I didn't even look back. I just said, "We'll see." We drove to my mom's that night, 3 hours on the road, quiet except for the music. The kids fell asleep halfway there. I just stared ahead, one hand on the wheel, trying not to spiral about everything I'd just done. When we got there, my mom met me at the door with open arms. She hugged me like she never wanted to let go, then made up the guest room and let me vent for a solid hour. When I finally paused, she looked at me and said, "You don't have to go back, not unless you want to." The next day, my phone blew up. Derek called, texted, left voicemails. Everything from "come home" to "you're ruining everything" to "I'll change, just please come back." I ignored it all. Then Linda chimed in, texting nonstop about how I was tearing the family apart, how Frank was devastated. Somehow Frank got hold of my mom's landline, a number I didn't even realize he had, and left a nasty voicemail. Said I was a disgrace. Said he always knew I'd pull something like this. My mom picked up the phone, listened silently, then calmly unplugged it. The rest of that weekend, we just lived. We went to the park, made pancakes with my mom, watched old movies, let the kids stay up late and eat too much syrup. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I realized how easy it is to breathe when no one's standing over you, judging you for existing. Then Monday came, and so did more guilt trips. Derek messaged again, said the kids needed their father, said I was being unfair, said I was causing a scene. So I sent him a photo, a picture of the calendar, all the appointments, all the missed events. I wrote, "You're welcome to come see them, but you are not welcome at my mom's." He fired back, "You can't keep me from my children." I responded, "Try me." My mom told me I could stay as long as I needed. I told her I'd start figuring out my next move. I texted Monica and asked if that spare room she mentioned was still available. She said it was, but I think the final, irreversible crack came when Derek did something I didn't see coming. He texted my daughter's old tablet, the one she barely uses anymore. He must have remembered the number from when he set it up. The message read, "Tell mommy to call daddy." She came to me holding the tablet, confused. "Do I have to?" she asked. I said, "No, baby." You don't have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And that was it. That was the moment I knew, for real, I was done. Done trying, done defending, done holding together something that was never safe for me to stand in. He can keep the house, his parents, his fragile ego. I'll take pancakes and peace at my mom's over tiptoeing around landmines every single day. I haven't blocked him completely. Not yet. The kids deserve the option to speak with their dad. But I'm not going to make it easy for him. And maybe, just maybe, the next time he thinks about laughing at me in front of his father, he'll remember what it felt like to come home to an empty house and a cold, unopened pizza box. Maybe not. Honestly, I don't care. I'm finally done. If anything else wild happens, I'll update. But for now, I'm going to stay here with my kids and my mom and figure out what comes next. Thanks for reading this far. Let me just say this. If you ever want to know how many people think they're entitled to a piece of your life, just disappear for 3 days and take your kids with you. It's wild. I had no idea how many ways people could try to reach me until my phone straight up wouldn't stop buzzing. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Everyone was a marriage therapist. And apparently, I became public enemy number one. All because I wanted to eat pancakes at my mom's instead of getting yelled at over baked pasta. And Cheryl, side note, I've got to hand it to you. Some of those messages were creative, but I'm exhausted. I'm not going back. I don't care how many missed calls I get. So where are we now? Still at my mom's place. It's nothing fancy, just a cozy little house with mismatched mugs, a fridge full of leftovers, and Wi-Fi that barely loads a YouTube video. But it's home. My mom's been cooking all my old favorites, even that weird potato salad I used to hate, which somehow the kids now love. And for the first time in ages, I actually slept through the entire night. The kids are thriving. My daughter keeps asking to water the plants every morning. My son's obsessed with the old puzzle collection she keeps in the hallway closet. And neither of them has said much about Derek, except to ask if they can bring their favorite stuffed animals next time we go somewhere. That says everything. But yeah, the phone. First it was Derek. Calls, texts, missed FaceTime rings. He even emailed me. Who emails their wife? At first it was sweet. Are you okay? Let's talk. Please come home. Then it flipped. You're being ridiculous. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then came the guilt. You're ruining this family. The kids miss me. You're confusing them. Don't do this. I muted everything. I didn't block him. Not completely. I'm not trying to sabotage his relationship with the kids. But I'm also not going to let him harass me. My mom said if he ever shows up at her house uninvited, she'll call the neighbor. And believe me, he does not want that smoke. Then Linda started in. She sent something like 12 texts in a row. Full paragraphs. All about how family is everything, how I need to think of the kids, how I'm breaking Derek's heart and embarrassing all of them. She tried calling too. I let it ring, straight to voicemail. Then she dialed my mom's landline. I didn't answer, but my mom did. All I heard was her say, I think you need to talk to your son, not my daughter. Then click. Line went dead. And then, surprisingly, Frank. Didn't think he'd bother, but oh, he did. Left a voicemail so long it maxed out the inbox. Accused me of never respecting their family. Said I made Derek weak, and that I was the reason everything's falling apart. At one point he actually said, you're a burden, just like I warned him. I played the message on speaker for my mom. She just shook her head and deleted it, then said, some people never change. Meanwhile, Monica's been checking in. She asked if I'm okay, if I want company, if I need anything. Even offered to bring coffee and donuts and just sit in the driveway in case I didn't feel like talking. I told her, not today, but maybe soon. It's nice knowing someone's in my corner, even if we're not super close. She gets it in a way most people don't. She had her own family mess a while back. She knows how fast people turn on you the second you stop playing along. The real kicker, Derek actually called my dad. They barely talk. But apparently Derek told him I'd run away, like I'm some teenager who missed curfew. So my dad called me, all puffed up, demanding to know what was going on. I told him the truth, told him about the dinner, the yelling, the constant criticism. how I was tired of being treated like a guest in my own home. He went quiet for a second, then said, "Well, I'm glad you're somewhere safe. Let me know if you need anything." Which for him, a man who usually just sends memes instead of feelings, was huge. But yeah, the calls, the emails, even a random DM on Facebook from one of Derek's cousins I haven't seen in 5 years. Everyone wants a say. They want me to come back, or explain myself, or apologize for making things awkward. Not one of them, not one, has asked how I'm doing, or how the kids are adjusting, or if I need support. It's all about them, their image, their comfort, their peace and quiet. You know what hit me the hardest, though? Watching Derek try to handle everything I normally do. And I didn't even take much when I left. Just the kids, a few changes of clothes, their favorite toys, my charger, and the important documents. Birth certificates, insurance cards. Just the basics. I wasn't trying to make some grand statement. I was just being practical. But suddenly I'm getting texts like, "Where are the kids' medical records? What's the login for the school app? When's the dentist appointment? What day is trash pickup? Where are the clean towels?" I ignored most of it, but for the essentials, the stuff that affects the kids, I gave him what he needed. I'm not here to make their lives harder, but I'm also not here to carry his anymore. Let him figure it out, just like I always did. Then Linda tried one last guilt trip, told me Frank's not sleeping, said the whole family is falling apart. I said, maybe he should have thought of that before calling me a burden, in my own kitchen. She said, "You're being petty." I said, "Maybe." She said, "You'll regret this." I replied, "Not as much as I'd regret staying." Then money stuff got weird, because of course it did. Derek and I had always split expenses in a way that worked. Some bills were his, some were mine. Groceries were whoever had time. Now that I'm gone, he's starting to realize how much got done without him ever noticing. He called and said, "You need to send money for the mortgage." I said, "You live there. The kids are with me. Figure it out." He said I was being cruel. I said, "You wanted to be the man of the house, right? Then act like it." He hung up. My mom gave me a high five. The kids? They haven't asked about him much. My daughter asked to call him once, so I let her. They talked for 5 minutes. Then she turned to me and said, "Can we go back to Grandma's puzzle now?" Frank tried one more time. He showed up at my mom's door. She answered and said he could talk to her. On the porch, not inside. He told her, "She's tearing this family apart." She looked him dead in the eye and said, "Then maybe you should have treated her like family." He turned red, stormed back to his car, and left without another word. I watched from the window, felt nothing. Then the school called, just checking in, asked how the kids were doing, if everything was okay, if we needed anything. I told them we were fine. I was honest. Told them things were changing, but the kids would be back soon. The school counselor said, "If you need anything, just ask." I almost cried, because that was the first time someone actually asked what we needed, not what made everyone else feel better. So what now? I don't know. I'm not going back. That's one thing I do know. I'm not going to keep pretending for a man who only ever cared about keeping his dad happy. Not for a family that saw me as a maid, a scapegoat, a convenience. Not for appearances. Not for awkward holiday dinners where no one helps and everyone gossips. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's a mess trying to sort out the school stuff, the paperwork, the little things I hadn't even thought of. But I'd rather do all of this, every bit of it, than go back to being a ghost in my own life. Derek still texts. Sometimes he's angry. Sometimes he begs. Sometimes he sends old photos like memories will erase everything he said. I just mute him. I told him he could see the kids, but only if he comes to my mom's. And only if he can control his temper. So far, he hasn't even tried. I don't know what's next, but I know what I'm not doing. I'm not apologizing. I'm not explaining myself. And I'm definitely not going back. The phone might keep ringing. The messages might keep coming. But the best part, I don't have to answer. Thanks for sticking through all of this. Sorry it's messy, but honestly, that's just what life looks like right now. I'll update if anything wild happens. But for now, I'm here, and that's enough.